I wanted to do this because Adam Lashinsky loves these moments when we can show President Trump and what he's up to on this global tour. Adam is slightly left of center, but what we enjoy about him is he is a phenomenal writer, and no one has his connections with the technology community. Again, a slightly left of center group, as it were, but in his latest, and I'm sure to be runaway best, he focuses on Uber, Wild Ride inside Uber's quest for world domination. We'll get into that in a second, but again, I was noticing the qualities that the Uber chief has aren't all that different from a lot of his high-tech colleagues. It seems to be ingrained in a lot of them.
Well, I guess you could say they're trying to do the impossible. They're creating something out of nothing. They're doing things that no one has done before them, and so it does, I guess, attract a certain personality. One of the big topics of discussion is it a requirement to be? Well, I certainly don't think so, but there's a preponderance of evidence to suggest otherwise.
Yeah, and they go against the grain, and I think even the way you kidded about the rise of Uber, which at face value, you're going to hop in a car with a stranger, trust your kid to hop in a car with a stranger, and hopefully get to where you're going, but the whole concept would have seemed alien.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it? And not just a stranger, but just any old car, too. I mean, it might be the kind of car that you or I would drive, maybe better, maybe worse, but it's not uniform, and that would have been jarring to explain to somebody, I think, 10 years ago. Right.
You know, technology, and while we're looking at President Trump, Adam, you know, on this his first foreign trip as president, is it your sense the technology community, if you think about it, has been probably as a group, as a sector, maybe with the exception of finance, the biggest beneficiary since Donald Trump was elected? I'm sure that's not entirely him, but what do you make of that anomaly, considering that I'm not saying it's monolithically Democratic, but it's mostly?
And you're talking about their stock market values?
Yeah, their stock market.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good run, but they're probably less affected by some of the gyrations of the things that we're caring about that are affecting the economy. You know, protectionism is not a huge issue. They stand to benefit in a big way from this tax repatriation because they're some of the biggest holders of their cash overseas, Apple in particular. So, yeah, they can
make money under any environment, pretty much.
I think that's right. That when they work, they're cash-generating machines.
Do you think that this president is getting off the plane, Air Force One now with Melania? Do you think that much of this president's success hinges on his getting his economic package through, whatever you think of it, the tax cuts, the regulatory relief? Some of these tech guys want to see it.
Yeah. I think you can make an even stronger statement. I mean, yeah, much of his success is predicated on that. You know, I think back to 6 weeks ago or so, a lot of people on the left and the right were having honest conversations about these economic policies. You know, what kind of tax policy do we want? What should we do with the health care legislation? Before the last couple of weeks, when nobody wanted to talk about anything other than the scandal of the day, I think a lot of people were willing to have an honest conversation and are willing to have an honest conversation about these things.
You know what comes up too, in light of other news developments? Obviously, there's attacks in England, whether you know, your friends in the tech community should be more responsive, more helpful, sharing information with authorities. Now, the fact of the matter is a lot of these stocks are doing well today because this was the means of communication post this disaster last night. What do you think?
So I think if you can generalize about them, they're torn. On the one hand, they have the technology to help. They know their technology is being used to hurt, and they could help. And yet they're sort of like the modern-day equivalent of free speech advocates. They don't want to do anything that's going to make it too easy for the government to just take their customers' information. So I think they have a real push-me-pull-you there on that.
Yeah. In light of Uber, and I was thinking with the Ford CEO getting fired, now here was a guy who was going to push driverless cars, electric cars, and all the rest. Do you think he was just a visionary fired too soon, or that he had it coming?
The Ford guy, well, you know, unlike Uber, so Uber's last valuation was about $69 billion, and then that's only tested in tiny little ways. Unlike Uber, the Ford CEO's stock was down 40% during his tenure. Visionary, great operator, nice guy, whatever, doesn't really matter.
But the future seems to be driverless cars. And so Uber and their drivers are competing with Uber.
Yes, well, for Ford, first of all, it was seen as not being far enough along. And the fascinating thing about the driverless is that Uber, on the one hand, relies on these drivers who are breaking their backs driving for Uber every day, around the world, by the way, and in the same exact breath saying, we might not need you in a few years, sorry.
What are they saying?
They say, hey, technology's coming, there's nothing we can do about it, too bad, enjoy it while it lasts.
How much time did you get to spend with the company higher-ups?
Many hours. In the last part of my...
How did you get in there? Because they hate the media.
They recognize the need for publicity, just like the rest of us.
They were getting a lot of bad publicity, right?
Yeah, they have been for quite a long time. The CEO actually threatened me when I said I wanted to write a book. He said, if you persist in doing this, I'll commission somebody else to do an authorized version, and it will torpedo your project. He never followed through on the threat, and I was patient and persistent, and you know, he knows me a little bit, and so he decided to tell me his story.
Your personal sense of driverless vehicles, to me, that still sounds crazy.
Right.
And it's had bumpy fits and starts.
Yeah. And the fact that it sounds crazy to you is very meaningful, and that's one of the two big factors that's going to stop it from coming soon. The second being...
Or go the other way. It's a sure bet.
No, the second being regulatory issues, because the funny thing is the technology's pretty darn good. And, you know, you say it's had its fits and starts, but compare it to humans. I mean, we're terrible. We get into accidents all the time and kill people, you know, literally every day. The robots really don't. But so the technology's there, but we're a ways off from most people accepting that and regulators regulating it, which is, by the way,
I would go in a driverless vehicle than ever be in the back seat with my wife driving.
Oh,
by far. Is she watching? Adam Lashinsky, thank you very much. Wild Ride Inside Uber's quest for world domination. Unfortunately, he's done it again with another great book.